I never thought betrayal would find me in the quiet corners of my own home. You imagine monsters waiting outside, strangers plotting your downfall. But mine was in my bed, sharing my table, whispering, "I love you," while she calculated the price of my trust. I didn't discover it through confrontation or suspicion. No, fate dropped it in my lap like a cruel joke. A message on her phone, not even hidden well. I wasn't looking, I wasn't digging, but once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And in that moment, my entire world cracked. It wasn't just infidelity. It was a transaction. She wasn't leaving me for passion, but for profit. Promises of money, comfort, luxury, whispered into her ear by someone who thought I was disposable. She smiled in my face, kissed me goodnight, while selling my worth for scraps of silver. Most men would rage, scream, flip tables, demand answers. But rage burns fast, and I wasn't going to waste my fire. I decided something colder, sharper. I would dismantle her life piece by piece, not loudly, quietly. Like a shadow slipping under her door. I said nothing. Not a single word. The next morning, I kissed her cheek like always. She believed her secret was safe, that I was still blind. But my silence was sharper than any accusation. I watched her smile, watched her type messages when she thought I wasn't looking. Every move, every lie, every excuse became a thread in the rope she was braiding around her own neck. And I let her. Because when someone underestimates you, their arrogance becomes your greatest weapon. I only needed patience. She had no idea her clock was already ticking. The first step wasn't revenge. It was preparation. I began collecting screenshots, receipts, photos, every careless trace she left behind. Bank statements she couldn't explain, strange late-night calls, lies so fragile they snapped with the slightest pressure. I didn't rush. I built my archive slowly, carefully, brick by brick. Every secret she thought was buried became another stone in the foundation of her downfall. I wasn't planning a fight. I was planning a funeral for her reputation, for her carefully crafted mask. She had dreams of status, of wealth, of being admired. That was her weakness, her hunger. I knew exactly where to strike. I let her think she was winning, let her believe she was moving closer to the life she craved. Meanwhile, I was cutting invisible strings, turning allies into skeptics, friends into strangers. Subtle conversations, small doubts planted like seeds. I didn't need to accuse her. People began to notice her inconsistencies themselves. And when whispers start, they spread faster than any scream. By the time she noticed the shift, it was already too late. But the sweetest revenge is patience. I didn't attack all at once. Doors she expected to open suddenly closed. She couldn't trace it back to me, but I was everywhere, in the background, in the silence, in the cracks forming beneath her feet. She smiled less, slept less. Her eyes darted more often, as if she sensed something was wrong but couldn't name it. She thought life was turning against her. She was right. She started to notice my calmness. The absence of anger unnerved her. Most men would explode, demand answers, leave scars in the walls. But me, I was kind, gentle, almost warmer than before. And that's what terrified her most. Because somewhere deep inside, she realized I knew. She couldn't say it, couldn't confront me, because to admit it would unravel her entire lie. So she stayed silent, and I stayed silent, and between us grew a silence louder than any fight. I watched her drown in it, gasping for control, while I only smiled. The man she betrayed me with wasn't her savior. He was her executioner. He had promised her riches, comfort, luxury. But men like him don't love. They use. And she was too blind to see she was disposable. I let their little affair run its course. I didn't intervene, didn't warn her. Why would I? Watching her walk into her own trap was far more satisfying. And when he eventually discarded her, she would already be broken, reputation in ruins, support stripped away. Betrayal is a sharp blade, but I had turned it in my favor. Her lies began to tangle. One story contradicted another. Friends grew suspicious. Family noticed her distance. She grew careless under pressure. One night she slipped, called me by his name in her sleep. I didn't react, didn't move, just watched her pretend in the morning, her face pale, her smile forced. Every lie was poison, and she drank it daily, thinking she could survive. But poison always works slowly, quietly, until the body collapses. I didn't need to expose her. She was unraveling herself, pulling her own threads apart until nothing remained but the truth. When the cracks widened, I struck the first blow. A carefully timed reveal. One photo, one screenshot, placed where it would hurt most. Not to me, but to her fragile image. She always wanted to be admired, respected. So I let the people she admired most see who she really was. The silence that followed wasn't relief. It was panic. She begged for explanations, scrambled to repair what couldn't be repaired. But once respect is broken, it never returns. She learned that day the cost of betrayal. And it was only the beginning of her fall. She tried to deny it, of course. Tears, apologies, even anger when the lies didn't hold. But none of it mattered anymore. Her words had lost their weight. People began to avoid her. Invitations dried up. Doors closed without explanation. She blamed bad luck, bad timing, but deep down she knew. And when she looked at me, calm, collected, smiling gently, she saw something she couldn't understand. I wasn't broken. I wasn't angry. I was free. And her fear wasn't of losing me. It was realizing she had already lost everything else. The man she chose over me didn't stay. He vanished the moment her usefulness ran out. She called him, begged him, even humiliated herself, trying to hold on to him. But once she had nothing left to offer, he disappeared into the night. I didn't need to lift a finger. She had burned her own bridges, salted her own earth. All I did was stand on the sidelines, watching her empire of lies collapse into dust. Betrayal doesn't need punishment. Betrayal punishes itself. I just sped up the process. But I wasn't finished. No, her downfall had to be complete. I leaked the rest of the evidence, slowly, methodically, each piece delivered like a precise strike. Friends turned their backs. Employers questioned her integrity. She tried to fight, but fighting shadows only makes you look crazier. Everywhere she turned, she found walls. No allies, no sympathy, no escape. And still, I never raised my voice, never showed my hand. To her, it must have felt like the universe itself had turned against her. But I knew better. It wasn't fate. It was me. She grew desperate. Messages filled my phone, not even me. She had traded my trust for scraps, and now she wanted it back like nothing had happened. But some betrayals carve wounds too deep to ever heal. I read her messages in silence, then deleted them one by one. The same silence she gave me when she lied beside me. The irony was beautiful. She once believed she was smarter than me, that her secret was untouchable, but her arrogance blinded her. Every step she took to secure her future only tied the knot tighter. She thought she was building a kingdom. She was digging a grave. And I, the man she dismissed as naive, had become the architect of her collapse. Betrayal is a double-edged sword. She thought she was cutting me, but in reality, she was carving her own destruction. All I did was hold the blade steady as it turned. There's a saying, revenge is best served cold, but what I learned was different. True revenge is silent. It doesn't scream, doesn't boast, doesn't rush. It waits. It lets the guilty expose themselves, destroy themselves, rot in the silence they created. I didn't need to strike her down. I just removed the safety nets and let her fall. She fell harder than I ever imagined. And as she reached out for me, I didn't grab her hand. I watched. Because mercy is wasted on those who never valued the gift of trust in the first place. By the time she realized I had known all along, it was too late. She confronted me, finally, desperate, broken, screaming for answers. I looked at her calmly, and for the first time, I spoke the truth. I knew. That was all. 2 words, sharp as a blade. Her face drained of color. Her body trembled, because in that moment, she understood. Every day she thought she was deceiving me, she was really deceiving herself. And every smile I gave her wasn't love anymore. It was the silence of a man sharpening his vengeance. She begged for forgiveness then. Promised she'd change, promised she'd be different. But betrayal doesn't just break love. It buries it. There was nothing left between us but ashes. I didn't shout. I didn't insult her. I simply walked away, leaving her in the ruins she created. She had lost her lover, her friends, her reputation, her future. Everything she thought she gained by betraying me had slipped through her fingers like sand. And when she tried to hold on, she realized the cruelest truth. I was never going to save her again. I rebuilt myself quietly, far from her shadow. While she spiraled into obscurity, I thrived. Her name became a warning, her story a whispered cautionary tale. People forgot her, but they remembered her betrayal. As for me, I learned something priceless. Pain isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's transformation. She tried to end me, but instead, she forged me into something stronger, colder, untouchable. She became the architect of her own suffering, and I became the man she never saw coming. Betrayal didn't ruin me. Betrayal revealed me. And now, when I look back, I don't see the nights I lost or the lies she told. I see the lesson. Some people destroy themselves the moment they choose greed over loyalty, betrayal over love. She thought she had won, but in the end, she only wrote her own downfall. My silence was her sentence, my patience her punishment. She wanted gold, status, admiration. Instead, she has nothing. And me, the sweetest revenge isn't pain, or anger, or even justice. The sweetest revenge is walking away while they burn.